Okay, I'm back with Cosmic T. That was very cool, by the way. And that was a piece of a track from Cosmic T's new album released today. And it's called what?
It is called Rise of the New Earth.
Right on. Okay. So, Tannen. And by the way, it feels weird calling you Tannen. I want to call you Cosmic. Is that cool?
We
Can I
can go
do
with
that?
cosmic, of course, of course.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure somewhere out there, there's some kid who was born like you in the Coots whose first name is Cosmic, right?
It's entirely possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's go with Cosmic. So as I said before we took that break, something happened to you that in the was not exactly inspirational, but it changed things. And I'm talking about car accident. And I know that
Hmm.
you also underwent a spiritual awakening at around the same time. And I'm wondering which was the cart and which was the horse for you.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to separate the two sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just a super succinct backstory on that. I was living in Calgary at the time doing building siding in minus 40-degree weather. Pretty intense work. Wouldn't recommend it necessarily, not for me at least. And yeah, I was kind of just at this point where I was kind of hitting a rock bottom in my life. I wasn't feeling satisfied or happy or connected. I was just going to the gym, doing a lot of partying, but really feeling like there's this big thing missing in my life. And I ended up picking up this book, this self-help book when I was getting groceries one day called The Power of Now. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, Eckhart Tolle. And it's like this big light bulb went off inside of me. It's like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this, my whole life kind of feeling. And I started just rattling off quotes to all my friends, texting them. They're like, "What, Tanner? What the hell are you talking about, man?" Like, they didn't really get it. I was just so passionate about this big shift happening within my being. And soon after that, I was driving home for the holidays, and I actually hit a patch of black ice, and I spun out, did a 180, and flew into the ditch. Ended up totaling my truck. I actually had a sleeping puppy on my lap at the time. Thank God, he was okay. I was okay. But it really shook me up, in a real way. But now looking back on it, as like it's what needed to happen, because I didn't end up going back to Calgary. Closed the chapter on that in my life, and soon after that, my brother was like, "Hey, now that you're getting into meditation and mindfulness, he knew about these books I was checking out, and he's like, you should check out this place called Yashodra Ashram on the East Shore." He's like, "I think they're into it over there." And I don't think I'd ever heard of them at that point, even though I grew up here in the Kootenays. And I'd looked into it, and in January they had their first intake happening for the Karma Yogis, and I signed up and never looked back since.
Yeah, that's an amazing place, isn't it? If any of you listening have not visited Yashodhara Ashram on the East Shore, it's just like less than 10 minutes from the ferry landing over there.
Mhm.
When COVID allows and they open up again to the public, go visit. They're very welcoming, and it is
Mhm.
a magical place. And speaking of magic in Yashodhara, while you were there, you ended up in a canning hut. And
Yes.
what happened in said hut?
So my dear brother and friend Andre, goes by Andre Galactic, of course. He was actually staying in this tiny little canning, or this little room above the canning hut there. This like 8 foot by like 5 foot room. And that was actually the place that I recorded my first album as Cosmic T, Seeds of Light. That's the title of that one. So we did it in this tiny, teeny, tiny little room there, and we would do it on our days off, on our Sundays, and we just kind of chipped away and had a lot of fun with it. And over the course of maybe 6 months or so, we had this album completed there.
Okay, so if memory serves me correctly, now you've brought us up to about 2015, and suddenly, correct me if I'm wrong, the music stopped and the traveling and the seeking began.
Yeah. So I had this album, I put it out. It felt really amazing, had some really good responses from people. And then, life took me in a new direction, and I started going traveling. I actually went on this first kind of epic solo backpacking adventure down in Central America, through the Yucatan, down in Mexico, Belize, Guatemala. Ended up staying at a beautiful esoteric mystery school down there called Las Pyramids del Ca for a month. I took their 1 month moon course, which really was a transformational time in my life as well. And I came back to the ashram after that, after this big kind of journey, visiting a bunch of sacred sites and stuff down there. And and I actually landed right back in the teacher program there. The timing just worked out perfect with that. And so I just continued on this trajectory of, yeah, more self-learning, more self-healing, more self-discovery. But in that process, like the music kind of stopped flowing. I was trying to make songs, but it just wasn't happening. It kind of felt like I was in this process of being dismantled, and I'm trying to create things while I'm kind of being dismantled by life. It just wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right fit, much to my dismay and frustration, because, a big part of me was like, oh, I just feel like I'm here to sing. I'm here to bring these songs through, and they weren't flowing through. So it was a big lesson for me. Like, wow, in a lot of ways, it's not even up to me, like there's a timing and there's a place for all this. And I just had to kind of surrender to that.
So that raises an interesting point. I'm always curious when I'm talking to creators, whether musicians, artists, writers, who always have moments. Sometimes the moments stretch into, as in your case, years.
Mm-hmm.
And some folks who I talk to about this are advocates of fighting through those blocks of
Mm-hmm.
if you're a writer staring at a screen every day for an hour, even if nothing comes out, or if what does come out is essentially drivel. And
Mm-hmm.
only through that discipline can one break through the block. And
Right.
others, and it sounds like you're going to be in this camp, say, no, 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 that's not the way it works. The cosmic muse is directing the flow of creativity. And if the muse turns off the tap for a while, the tap is turned off for a reason. And you
Yeah.
just have to trust and believe that one day, if appropriate and if preordained, if you will, the tap is going to be turned on again. Now, talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, yeah, it's I really I appreciate the way you described that, Randy, and I've definitely heard both sides of that coin, and I can relate to both of them. I know I don't think there's one cookie cutter way that's the truth. I think certain methods work for certain people, and we all have our own creative process. For me, certainly though, it became evident that I had to just put it down. I had to put down the whole thing and continue to go through my inner journey, and I knew there was a feeling in my heart that there would be a time like that these songs would come back and they would emerge, but they would emerge from that inner transformation that was happening within myself. And they would be that much more powerful, that much more potent, and that much more, me, truly me.
Right.
Not to say my earlier songs weren't me too, those were like exactly reflecting where I was at that moment, maybe even stretching into where I was growing. So I also see my creations as I think any good creation transforms us, right? Just the creative process of itself transforms us, and challenges us to persevere and to keep opening and deep and going deeper. So this process has certainly been no exception. I actually forgot how much of a commitment it is. I was like, oh my God, because this first album just seemed to flow through really effortlessly, and this one I had to really dig deep and put a lot of heart and a lot of intention, a lot of prayer into. It was a next level creation for sure, and I feel like that shines through in the songs. But anyways, to answer your question, yeah, for me, it was very much a journey of surrender and trusting in that timing, trusting when the cosmic muse had turned off the tap, and then it was redirecting me into other, directions in my life.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a perfect place to take another break. Let's listen to a piece of another track from Rise of the New Earth, and then we'll be back with Cosmic T.
let's do it.